Israel and the Jews were talking about the same thing. Therein lies the problem. The problem is that the whole world, and almost 99% of the church world, believes that Israel are the Jews. Well, the Jews, in fact, make up only one part of Israel. As we have already seen in our program, the house of faith was established by one man. It was Abraham. Abraham was not called a Jew. He was not called an Israelite. He was not called any of those names. Whenever he left the land of Ur in Babylonian area, when he left that land due to the calling of God, he became what was called the Hebrew. The word Hebrew means the crossover, and what it means in spiritual terms is crossing over from death into life, becoming the children of God. Abraham then had sons. Jacob was one of those sons. I've already shown you the passage of Scripture where God said to Jacob, your name will no longer be Jacob, but it will be Israel. That's where Israel came to be. Jacob's name, by God, was changed to Israel. Jacob then had 12 sons. Those 12 sons became the sons of Jacob, or the sons of Israel, for Jacob's name was now Israel. One of his sons' name was Judah. So that became Judah. They had children, and therefore it became the house of Judah, the tribe of Judah, or the tribe of Israel, a tribe of Jacob. I hope you understand. Israel had 12 sons. Jacob had 12 sons. That then became the sons of Israel, the house of Israel, the house of Jacob. They, of course, had sons, and they became the tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel then was made up of Judah, of Issachar, of Zebulun, of all 12 of them. The only ones that were called Jews of the 12 tribes was the house of Judah. Judah. Jew became a shortened name for Judah. That's where the Jew came from, the house of Judah. The house of Judah makes up only 1/12 of the whole nation of Israel. An example that I've used throughout every program is, all Texans are Americans, but all Americans are not Texans. So, the idea that Israel is the Jews, and anytime you hear Israel, you're talking about the Jews. That is simply incorrect. It's wrong, and it's clearly wrong biblically. There is much teaching going on today that says that the Jews in Israel are not really the Jews, that the Jews was scattered abroad, conquered by Babylon, and after Babylonian captivity, and Israel went back into their land, only a few Jews went back. And so, what we have today that is called Jews are not the real Jews, and everybody associating Jews with the whole of Israel says what you have as Israel is not really Israel, because the Jews over there are not really Jews, not even realizing and recognizing that to say Jew is not to say all of Israel. Nonetheless, this is what where the problem is. The Jews that are in Palestine now, the Jews that was in there after the Babylonian captivity, some 700 years or so before Jesus came, they say they were no longer the real Jews. Where did the house of Israel go? Well, much history, biblical evidence, and history shows us exactly where they went. As I've shown you already, the Bible said that they would go northwest from Israel. They would become an island people, where in Isaiah 49, God would address Israel as, O ye isles, those that's in the islands. The Bible said they would go northwest from Israel. Draw a line northwest of Israel, of Jerusalem, northwest, until you hit an island that fulfilled the promises of God, and it will hit the British Isles. That's where they went. The Bible said that they would possess the gates of their enemy, and they would be a multitude of nations, or a commonwealth of nations. There is only one nation in the history of mankind that has ever been a commonwealth of nations. Only one. Guess where it was? That island northwest of Jerusalem called the British Isles. It was said that the sun never sets on the British Empire. They possessed the gates of their enemy, the strategic points of all of their enemies. The Bible also said that where they would be, there would also be a king, and that king would be of the line of David. So we're looking for an island-dwelling people northwest of Israel that still has a king. For the Bible said, as I've shown you these scriptures, the Bible said that David would never want for a man to sit upon his throne. As long as there was daylight and dark, the covenant would stand, the Bible said. So we're looking for an island-dwelling people that has possessed the gates of their enemies, that has been a commonwealth of nations, that possesses a king even to this day, that can be run back to the lineage of David. Now, I told y'all about a chart that I was going to try to get for you. I've had it in the past, and I have located the chart. I've got them if you want them. Now, you won't be able to see this very well because of the lighting causing a little bit of a problem. But this is a chart, and that's how big it is. And what this chart does is it takes you all the way from King David, all the way 144 people up to Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth is the 144th from King David. So we're looking for an island-dwelling people northwest of Israel that possess the gates of their enemies, that was a power of the world, that possesses a king even to this date that can date back to the lineage of David. And you have only one that fulfilled every one of those, and it is Great Britain. Then we saw Jeremiah. We saw Jeremiah then taken into captivity. We saw in the scriptures that God said in Jeremiah 15 that he would have Jeremiah to be treated well in a time of affliction and by his enemy. That's before he was even captured. Then we see in chapter 39 of Jeremiah, after the Jews was conquered by Babylon, all of a sudden we see a brutal king murdering and killing and butchering. All of a sudden says concerning Jeremiah, let him go, let him do whatever he wants to, treat him well. Why did Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, do that? Because God said in chapter 15, Jeremiah, you're going to be treated well among your enemies in a time of affliction. And so Nebuchadnezzar let him go. We showed you this in the last program. Where did Jeremiah go? Jeremiah went to the governor's house. His name was Gedaliah. As we read through the stories, chapter 39, 40, 41, 42, and 43 of Jeremiah, then you find he went to Gedaliah's house. And you find that the king's daughters were there. The last king of Israel that was noted was Zedekiah. The Babylonians took every one of his sons before his face and killed every one of them. That's those that would inherit the throne. And made Zedekiah see all of his sons get killed. And then the Babylonians gouged out the eyes of Zedekiah the king, and Zedekiah died in the prison in Babylon. So the Babylonians thought that they had wiped out the entire lineage of the king, not realizing that in the Hebrew and in the Jewish faith, that if there was not a man to occupy the throne, then a female could. There is the reason why whenever Jeremiah left Babylon, he went straight to Gedaliah's house, knowing that the daughters of the king was there. The next thing we know is we find in Ireland's history that a prophet, they called him Olam Fala, the seer, the prophet, came to shore with two fair-haired princes, one from the line of Pharez, one from the line of Zara. And the Bible tells us that Jeremiah would bring and plant the throne of Israel there in Ireland. Jeremiah was commissioned with 2 commissions in Jeremiah 1. He was to tear up, tear down, destroy, pluck up, and then he was to go somewhere else, plant and build what he plucked up. We talked about that in detail. He took the throne of Israel into Ireland, where he's recognized as the prophet, the seer. His statue on the forecourts of Dublin, Ireland, attests to the grave of Jeremiah. From there, that stone of destiny that marked the house of God, the stone that all the kings of England was coronated over, or the kings of Israel was coronated over, now had been moved to Ireland, plucked up, now planted in Ireland. From Ireland it went to Scotland. From Scotland it went to England, to Westminster Abbey, where every king to this day is and will be coronated over the same stone, every child of Israel. So you have the stone of destiny. That's the rock that Jacob laid his head on, the rock that Moses brought out of Egypt with him, the rock that he smote and water came out of it, the rock that Israel's kings was coronated over, the rock that England's kings is coronated, being birthed by the daughters of the king Jeremiah got from Gedaliah's house and brought to Ireland. And the king's throne was established in Great Britain. The word British means brith in the Hebrew, covenant, ish in the Hebrew, man, covenant people. Then the Bible takes us to the story of Hosea, where Hosea tells us that God commanded Hosea to marry a harlot. The reason for this was he would tell the whole story of his relationship with Israel through Hosea. You marry a harlot. The Bible said that God divorced Israel, not the Jews. God divorced Israel. Israel was then scattered. They went into the British Isles, northwest of Israel. All of the things that I just told you. They were pagans. Nobody knew they were Israelites. They lost track of who they were. And they were pagans. And God said, "You're not my people." And so the Lord had this harlot to have 3 children. Had a son called Jezreel. This is Hosea chapter 1. Had a son called Jezreel. The name meant scattered. Then he had another child that was named Lo-ruhamah, which meant no mercy, and another son called Lo-ammi, and his name meant not my people. I will have no mercy on what is not my people, that is scattered. That's what the 3 children's name meant. But then the Bible tells us something strange would happen there. In chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the book of Hosea, God says, the people who were not my people, and I was not their God, in the place that took place, ye shall become, or ye shall be my people, and I shall be your God. That is where the house of Israel accepted the gospel of Jesus Christ. And in the place that they were not called God's people, they were given no mercy. In that place they received the gospel and became the sons of God, and God became their God. That's what Hosea says. From there was a split, there was a breakup that took place. And the tribe of Manasseh broke off, fulfilling the prophecy of Jacob, broke off and became the singularly great nation, the one that Isaiah said would carry the gospel of the light of God's salvation to the entire world, Manasseh, the United States of America. You see, America has fulfilled every prophecy of Israel. Every prophecy of Israel was that they would be very wealthy. They would be very powerful. They would be very rich. They would carry the gospel of God to the